Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, man. It's the Sabbath with your brothers, man, from the hopeful elect. You know what I'm saying? Hoping to make our calling in the election sure, as it says, I think, in 2 Peter 1 and 10, right? Making our calling and our election sure. Part of that is by keeping the Sabbath day, and that's what we're doing, man. We're coming on this live so that those that don't get to gather, maybe you can fellowship with us through the live, and you can spiritually and virtually gather, right? And you can get some of this word in as well, right? So I want to say we give all glory and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who sent His Son as an instrument of salvation for the nation, and that nation is Israel. Shalom to the 12 tribes, the commandment keepers. Shalom to the cleavers out there that want to cleave to the nation of Israel. Today we got a good lesson, man. Hopefully it's edifying. It's entitled "The Number 7 in the Holy Text." Now we know that a lot of people can go off, right? We know a lot of people can go off and get into numerology and angel numbers, and they'll wear it around their neck and with chains and get it tattooed 777, 444, 333. A lot of people, they'll let it go to their head where they're seeing, a lot of times, a lot of people during that whole rapture trend, they were saying, I'm seeing this number over and over again, September so-and-so, September so, and they were led to believe a certain thing. We're not saying to get into that at all, right? I'm not saying to get into that at all. I'm just saying that numbers in the Bible do serve meaning. Like a lot of times in the Bible, to be able to piece together the Bible, you have to understand what numbers mean to understand a prophecy or understand what's being said or understand why something was repeated. You have to know the importance of these numbers for that purpose, to interpret the text, to rightly divide the word of truth, right? For a few examples, I read some examples down before we get into the number 7, right? I got here the number 3, and I want to put the disclaimer out there. This is not AI. So if you go and try to AI this and Google this, it may not say what I'm about to say. This ain't AI, like the brother Denal say. This ain't AI. This the Most High. The Most High gave me this revelation of what I'm about to share. Hopefully, it's edifying, right? So if I say something and you go and Google me like that's not what it said. That's not what Google said. That's not what these scholars say. I'm not going off of that. I'm going off of the revelation the Most High God has given me after reading the text multiple times, right? So the number 3, to me, in my revelation, my understanding, the number 3, shalom to the brother. The number 3, brother a little tired, man, getting his rest in. But the number 3, right? Like I said, shout out to the brother Denal on the screen. This ain't AI. This is the Most High. The Most High revealed to me that the number 3 in the text kind of means sanctification or holiness. To hallow something or to sanctify something, the number 3. For example, we have Jonah, right? He was in the belly of the whale for 3 days, 3 nights. And just like him, Christ was in the tomb for 3 days, 3 nights. We have the 3 feasts that were supposed to go before the Lord, right? That number 3. We know that the 3rd tribe was hallowed, right? What else? We know that he asked Peter to feed his sheep how many times? 3 times. Sanctifying. We know a lot of times in our ritual of our law, a lot of times you're supposed to cleanse somebody on the 3rd day of a separation, right? Letting you know the sanctification and holiness, right, belongs to that number 3. Another number 4, I got here, once again, the revelation that was given to me, 4 symbolizing power, right? 4 symbolizing power. For example, the 4 horsemen read about in, I believe it's Zechariah or Zephaniah, the 4 horsemen, right? 4 winds of the earth, the 4 winds, right? Exemplifying power, 4 winds. The 4th tribe, which we know is Judah, exemplifying the power of our nation, right? And the 4 beasts in Revelation, right? So we can see that a little bit with the number 4. We're going to go over the number 7, right? But before we do that, I want to say the number 10, right? The number 10 could mean completion, right? I have here that the number 7, which we're going to go in today, is perfection, but the number 10, completion, right? And that goes for a lot. Some things I have written down. Sometimes you'll see stuff like until the 10th generation. That's not literally talking about count 10 generations. A lot of times it's just talking about a complete amount of time, right? They can't come into if the Moabite and the Ammonite can't come into the congregation until their 10th generation forever, that's just saying a complete amount of time. Another thing, the 10 virgins, right? When Christ gave the parable of the 10 virgins, right? A complete amount of virgins, a complete amount of brides, right? And there's a just balance with everything. So that's why he has 5 wise and 5 foolish. Also, when it says things like give it back to you tenfold, a complete amount, right? Completely back, right? 10 toes, right? The 10 toes prophecy in Daniel, 10 plagues that he gave to Egypt, a complete amount of plagues, 10 commandments that he gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. And he also asked for a 10th of your increase, right? And a perfect, complete amount to give back to the Most High God. And then also you can get mathematical with these numbers and you can combine them together. What do I mean by that? We said that, well, I said that 3 could symbolize holy or sanctification, 4 could symbolize power, 7 can symbolize perfection, 10 can symbolize completion. You can get mathematical and combine them. What do I mean by that? Right? If you combine 3 and 4, you have a holy power, a holy power. What does that look like? The 3 Hebrew boys, the 3 holy children, that number 3 signifying holy, right? But when they looked in the furnace, what did they see? They saw 4 men, right? Symbolizing that power of God, right? So 3 and the 4. You can also combine, let's say, power and completion. The number 4 being power, the number 10 being completion. You have 40, right? So a lot of times you see 40 days, 40 nights, a lot of times in the text, right? That's a powerful completion, a power fast when they do that, right? A powerful into the earth with the flood, 40 days and 40 nights, right? You can also add perfection and completion. 7 and 10, 7 being perfection, 10 being completion, 70, a perfect completion, right? How many times should you give your brother? A perfect complete amount of time, 70 times 7, right? Or the prophecy in Daniel with 70 days are on the people of God, which we'll get into later, right? But that's just going into a little bit of the numbers and understanding how numbers have meaning in the Bible and how you should understand numbers to be able to interpret the text of what you're reading, right? Not to get confusing, right? But you can get mathematical with this text. Go ahead.
I got a question. So what do 6-7 mean?
6-7? Galatians
Yeah, what
chapter
that
6.
mean?
Hey, Galatians chapter 6-7. God is not mocked, brother. You know what I'm saying? He gonna give you what you gonna reap what you sow.
Get him out of here, man.
Get him out of here, man. 6-7, man. On the 6th day, God ended his work on the 7th day. He rested, man. 6-7. Go ahead,
Yeah, that's right, brother. Bring it out. That's right.
I was gonna say too, man, for the number 3. I don't know if you mentioned it or not. I came in on the number 3, but did you mention the 3rd tribe?
God, how they were hallowed and sanctified. The 3rd tribe.
You mentioned that.
God.
Also, when the tribe split, when he hollowed the remnant of Jerusalem or the Jews, he saved 3 tribes for that, right? And then when he went into scattering the children of Israel, right? When he went to scattering the children of Israel, one could, people could argue, it seemed like he just scattered the northern kingdom, right? When they split. But you got to understand, man, like you were saying, in essence, he kept 3 tribes for the Jews, but 10 tribes did he scatter 10 being that number of completion as well. You know what I'm saying?
Man, So this number thing is all without the Bible. You got to understand who created numbers and who created time, right? We shouldn't give ourselves over and be dismayed with it, but a proper understanding is needed to be able to rightly divide the word of truth, man. This Bible. So we're gonna and shalom to the brother Isaiah too. We're gonna go ahead and play the shofar, and then we'll get into the number 7 in the holy text. Man. Hey, and like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm gonna keep saying it. This ain't AI, this the most high. And like this ain't AI, this the most high, right? So, and I'm saying that to give the disclaimer of no, I did not research this. So if you go back and research what I'm saying, and the brother Azrael said the number 3 means holy and sanctification, and you go back and research it and say something else, hey, look, I did not get this from no research. I got this once again from revelation of reading myself and praying and fasting for understanding, right? So going into the number 7, go ahead, Obadiah.
Yeah, man. So basically what the brother's saying is he basically read the scriptures and he basically he's lining up what he's seeing in the scriptures that the Most High revealed to him. So that's basically what the brother doing, man. It's you know, it's clear, it's clear to me, it makes sense, So but the brother basically saying if you look into it, it might not say the same thing he's saying, but that's his revelation and he's seeing the scriptures.
So take from this what you may, right? And what you will, right? But nonetheless, let's get into this, man. The number 7 in the holy text, I believe in Paleo Hebrew is like Shavah or Sabah or something like that, right? The number 7. Dang, I was gonna say something. I can't remember what I was gonna say. It'll come back to me, Lord willing. Right. Anyway, let's go. Genesis chapter 7, starting at verse 1. Salakia. We'll read from left to right.
Got you. Genesis 7:1. It says, and the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for these have I seen righteous before me in this generation.
Right. So this is in Genesis, right? Which we know is in the Torah, it's in the law, right? You're going in the first 5 books, you're going to see a lot of numbers. So much so that, you could just get caught in the weeds and reading so many numbers, they just start going over your head, right? So this is talking about Noah and Noah's venturing into the ark and preparing the ark. And after he prepared the ark and things of that nature and what he was commanded, right? So read this one more time.
Slakia. And the Lord said unto Noah, come now and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation.
Right. Him and his family have been righteous in this generation, right? Right. It was him and 7 other people. Right. Verse 2.
Of every clean beast that thou shalt take thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of the beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female.
Right. So he's saying if it's a clean animal, you take them by 7s. And if it's an unclean animal, you take it by 2s. Right. So now the story goes from the Christian church. Noah had an ark and all the animals went in 2 by 2. And everybody knows that they went in 2 by 2, but they don't ever tell you that he took 7 of the clean. You know why that is? Because this world, man, and this religion, they love the 2. They love the evil. They want to, talk about the pork and the bat and the alligator bites. They that's what they want to know. But the Most High God told them 7 of the clean. So, like I said earlier, the Lord showed me, right? 7 being perfection. Now, I'm saying that it's perfection and not completion, right? Because even though the Most High God, for example, he hallowed the 7th day and it's the Sabbath day, that's not the end of all days. It's a perfect amount of days, but it's not the complete amount of days, right? Even though here he's saying put these 7 animals on this ark, he's not saying that's all that's going to be. No, those 7 animals are going to repopulate the earth one day, but it's a perfect amount of them that you may need, right? To what's the word? To preserve, right? Each of those lines. Verse 3.
Verse number 3: of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth.
Right? To keep that seed alive. So you needed 7 of each to keep the seed alive. If you would have had 6, maybe the seed would have died. You would have had 3, maybe the seed would have died. But 7, that perfect amount, right, will keep that seed alive on the face of the earth. Let's read verse 4.
Verse 4: for yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth.
Right? For 7 days. So 7 animals of all the clean, he said to gather them. He's going to give him what? 7 days. He's going to give him a week to do that. He's going to give him a perfect amount of days to gather these animals. Right? Let's move on. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 2. Brother Isaiah, if you could.
This is the book of Genesis, the 2nd chapter, starting at the 2nd verse. And it reads, and on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made.
Right. I like the way this is written, right? Because a lot of times we emphasize that he made the earth in the 6 days, right? But really, I like the way it says in Genesis 2, and on the 7th day, God ended his work. He ended his work on the 7th day, right? And which he made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work. Why? Because it was perfect. He saw that it was good. It was perfect, right? So 7 being the number of perfection in the holy text, right? Exodus 12 and 14, Brother Obadiah.
Here's the book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 14. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever.
Right? Exodus 12 and 14. What feast is this talking about? What feast is this talking about? Right? Any brother know?
Verse
You talking about the feast mentioning right here in Exodus 12?
Right.
It's talking about the feast of the Passover or the unleavened bread.
Con, man. The hint is in the lesson. The lesson title. We going over the number 7. We at Exodus 12. He's talking about a feast. So it can either be the Passover or unleavened bread, but we know unleavened bread was that feast where we posted what? Eat 7 days. Right? So let's do verse 15.
Verse 15. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth, leaven and bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
Right. So Khan, the sister got it right as well. Unleavened bread. 7 days we're supposed to eat. A perfect amount of times we're supposed to eat unleavened bread, right? For this feast day. Let's move along. And I just want to give a disclaimer, man. This video, right, is not to beat a dead horse. It's not to just hone in on the number 7, but it's just, a video to give you something to think about, give you some examples, and also to give you some fun facts that you may not have known or read over in the holy text, right? So that's what this video is going into. It's not a teaching per se, right? But it could be edification, and it could be food for thought, if that makes sense. Leviticus 25 and 3, right? We're still in the law.
Leviticus 25 and verse 3. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard and gather in the fruit thereof.
So all my people that love to farm, right? Everybody that loves agriculture and horticulture and plant science, and you love your fruits and vegetables, he's giving you 6 years to do what you need in the field, right? This is a law. But verse 4.
Verse number 4. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, and a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard.
Right. So the 7th year, right, is a perfect amount of time that land should have been working. So he's giving it rest in that 7th year, right? Leviticus 15:19. Let's get another law.
Leviticus chapter 15 and verse number 19. And it reads, and if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days. And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even.
Right? So she's put apart 7 days, right? I'm not going to say that's even a complete amount of days, but it's a perfect amount of days, because some women, they may only have their issue of blood for 3 days. Some women, they may have their issue of blood for 4 days. Some may have it for the whole 7, but a perfect amount of days she's to be separated for the just in case. And then there's also laws in place in the Bible if it goes past those 7 days. All right. So 7 days being a perfect amount of days for her separation, right? Your wife, she may be on her period and her period's heavy for the first 2 days, and then she spots the 3rd day, and then by the 4th day it's over with. But the Bible still wants us to put her away for 7 days. That's why the Bible doesn't say to put her away until she stops bleeding, but to put her away for a specific amount of days. Why? Because that's a perfect amount of time for her to recuperate, her body to recuperate. Right. And I'm sure you can get into the science of it all. And I know the women know their cycles and all this, and ovulation in this period and that period. But, to keep it simple, we're saying 7 days for, a perfect amount of days of separation. Go ahead, Obadiah.
King, kind of like, I don't know if you had just said this, but kind of like, with the 7th day when the Lord created the earth, he rested on the 7th day, man, because he's seen, everything was complete. And that could be the same thing with the blood, and the women on their cycle. The 7 days is like, that's a complete amount of time, for cleansing.
God. This next one for Obadiah, right? Going into number 6. This is going into the law of a Nazarite, which this law kind of goes back to the law for the people as well, right? For if you come against a dead body, right? So let's read this in number 6 to see what it says for a Nazarite.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 6 and verse 9. If any man die very suddenly by him, and he had defiled the head of his consecration, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day shall he shave it.
Right. So he's not supposed to shave his head right when that person died by him, because if a Nazarite is not supposed to come to any dead body. He's not supposed to come. He's not supposed to go to any funerals, whether it's his mom, his dad, his sister, whatever, his brother, right? And if any man dies suddenly by him either, right, he's supposed to, cut his hair, but he's not supposed to cut his hair until the 7th day, right? A perfect amount of time has to go forth before he shaves his head, right? Is there more on that? Let me see. Salaki, that's going into the 8th day. So let me go here real quick.
And I want to add too, man, I'm gonna put a challenge out there for all the viewers. You can tell us what number 6 and 9 means when it means to die suddenly by. We're gonna have to do something nice for you. But what it means to die suddenly by, right? So I need people to come up with that, what you think that is saying or alluding to.
Man. And it's straightforward. When a man dies suddenly by you, man, it could be in war or whatever. But nonetheless, what I'm saying, when we go back when we go back in the scriptures, right? It's literally just saying at no dead body. So it could be any type of dead body. You feel me? It could be suddenly. It could be. You knew they was gonna die. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, hey, go ahead. Hey, y'all go ahead and do that, man. Send us your thoughts on the phrase of die suddenly.
Madness.
But Revelation, right? Let's go to Revelation, man. Verses 5, we're going to start at verse 6. Back to the top, Brother Denal.
Con, Revelation 5 and 6. And behold, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth.
You see the number 7 a lot, man. Also, remember we mentioned 4 being power, right? You see the 4 beasts mentioned as well, right? Meaning a certain power in the earth, right? 4 different powers. And in the midst of the elders stood the lamb and has been slain. 7 horns. Horns represent power as well. So 7 powers, right? 7 eyes representing vision. So 7 visions, right? One can try to tie this into prophecy, 7 visions, which are the 7 spirits, right? These 7 spirits can be tied into the 7 churches, right, of God sent forth in all the earth. So this is a perfect amount of visions, a perfect amount of powers within the earth, and a perfect amount of churches within the within the earth as well, right? Seeing that number 7 once again. Is there more on that? Salakia now. Let's go to Revelation 1 now. Revelation 1. We're going to go to verse 13.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1, starting at verse number 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with the garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with the golden girdle.
So who can tell me what those 7 candlesticks are? What is that 7 candlesticks?
It could be
menorah,
or it could be the 7 churches of God.
Khan, we know that those 7 flames, I believe, are those 7 churches. And like both the brothers said, the 7 candlesticks goes back to what we call the menorah. We don't have a 9 candlestick menorah. We have a 7 candlestick menorah, a 7 candlestick menorah, right? And let's get proof of that. Let's go to Exodus 25 and 31, right? These things aren't by happenstance, right? These things happen for a reason. A lot of times they would use that candlestick, the menorah, and they would use the smoke of it and all of that. They would use it to cleanse the temple or the altars, right? Right? It was a perfect amount of fire. Exodus 25 and 31. Let's read this, some history on the menorah. I think it's on you, Obadiah.
Come, my bad. Exodus 25 and 31. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his nopes, and his flowers shall be of the same.
Come on, man. So we're making a candle of pure gold, talking about the menorah. Let's read verse 32.
And 6 branches shall come out of the side of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side.
Right. So really you have that one candlestick and you have 3 branches on each side of that one candlestick, giving you 7. Right. Let me see if there's more on that. You can read this too.
3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a nope, and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a nope and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick.
Come on, man. So that gives you 7 candlestick, a perfect amount of candlesticks. Once again, this is just going over the number 7 in the Bible, right? A lot of times we read over things, right? And then we see it says 3 bowls, right? That's remember we said 3 being holy or sanctification, right? We seeing 3 coming out of each side, right? So No, numbers do serve a purpose. Everything is not just random, right? Because the Most High God could have made a 5 candlestick menorah. He could have made a 9 candlestick menorah. He could have made all these, but he made a 7 candlestick menorah because that's a perfect amount. That's a perfect number. Right. Let's go to Daniel now. Right. The book of Daniel. Let's go to chapter 9. And let's start at 24. Daniel chapter 9, starting at 24.
Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins.
Right. So stop right there real quick. 70 weeks. Remember what we said 10 was? We said, well, I said 10 was for completion, right? I said 7 was for perfection. 10 was for completion. You add 10 and 7 together, you get perfect completion. A perfect, complete amount of weeks are determined upon your people, because this is talking about the end times, upon thy holy city to finish what it says, to finish or to complete the transgression. That's the completion part of the 10, right? And to make an end of sins, that's the perfection part, to make the end of sins, to make perfect and to make reconciliation for iniquity, right? And I'll just read the rest, brother. And to bring everlasting righteousness, that's that perfect completion, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, right? And to anoint the most holy, right? The vision and prophecy, I would tie that back to what we read in Revelation when it said that there was 7 eyes before the Most High God on his throne, right? So now let's go back to Revelation. Let's go to Revelation chapter 2. Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10.
The book of Revelation, chapter 2 and verse number 10.
Now I'm going here just to point out, because in the last precept we just read, I said 7 plus 10 is 70. So we combined those two numbers. So now I'm going to just, give an example of 10. So Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10.
Revelation 2 and 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life.
Right. So he said you're going to have tribulation 10 days. 10 just is a complete amount of days, right? 10 could mean the rest of your days, right? Because he says what? Faithful unto death. 10 could mean, it just means a complete amount of days, right? A lot of people will get caught up in the literal sense of 10 days. And that's when you get a bunch of prophetic pastors and prophetic YouTubers and stuff. And they'll say 10 days of darkness is prophesied in the Bible. The 10 days of this is coming up. And people are actually expecting to be in prison for 10 days and then let go after the 10th day in the end times, right? But we know that it's not talking about being let go after 10 days, because it said be thou faithful unto death, right? So giving an example that 10 doesn't always mean, it could be literal, but also you have to understand it could just be meaning that 10 is a complete amount of time, right? Let's go here to get another example of 10. Matthew 25 and 1. Matthew 25 and 1.
The book of Matthew, chapter 25 and verse 1. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom.
Right. So the kingdom of heaven is like 10 virgins, a complete amount, right? Because when we get to the kingdom, it's going to be a complete amount of righteous people there, or a complete amount of whoever's supposed to be there, right? So it's likened unto 10 virgins, right? Then you can go into this prophecy. You have 10 wise, 10 foolish, right? But it's likened unto 10 virgins. Why? Because, it's complete amount. Then also, like we mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video, right, we have what? The 10 plagues that he sent on Egypt a complete amount of plagues until Pharaoh said, you know what, enough is enough. Then we also see it was 10 commandments that Moses originally had brought down before the people were like, you know what, you just deal with God, right? And, you know, the whole earth understands there to be 10 commandments, right? Even though we know that there's more. But if one thing about those 10 complete commandments is that if you do those, you're not gonna go off in any of the other commandments, law, statutes, commandments that are written in the Bible, right? It's a complete amount of number. It's a complete amount of commandments, right? Salakia. What is this? Khan, right? So now adding it back again together, right? 10 and 7. Let's go back. And we briefly mentioned this at the beginning too. Matthew chapter 18. Let's start at verse 21. You to know.
Again, that's crazy. That was fast. Matthew 18 and 21. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times.
Right. And Peter understood. That's why he said, how often I'm supposed to forgive him? 7 times. And, you know, Peter probably was trying to be smart. You know what I'm saying? He was like, man, I don't forgive him 7 times. Right. No, knowing that 7 could mean more than just 7 times. But Peter, you know, probably wanted to understand, like, man, how many times can somebody go off? And we just, you know, have to look the other way and forgive them. Right. Let's see what the Most High God said. Right. It's not just a perfect amount of times, because you could forgive somebody 7 times and say, you know what, I'm done with it. It's happened 7 times, it's over with. But it's not just a perfect amount of times, right? I would say it's a perfect, complete amount of times, right? Let's keep reading. Verse 22.
Christ said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7.
Right. So 70 times 7, 70 being that number 7 for perfection, plus 10 or times 10 for completion. So you have a perfect, complete amount of times another perfect amount of times, right? Saying you're always supposed to forgive your brother when he comes and asks for forgiveness. Why? Because we want the Most High God to forgive us whenever we come and ask him for forgiveness, right? A perfect amount of times. Right, let's go to Genesis chapter 29. Let's go back to the law and let's go back to the number 7, right? Genesis 29 and verse 18. We're going to start at verse 18.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 29 and verse 18. And it reads, And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter.
Right? I speak as a man, but I believe in our culture, we understood that 7 was a perfect amount of time, right? We understood that if we wanted to just give a generalization for a perfect amount of time, we would say 7, right? Whether it be 7 weeks, 7 years, 7 days. That's a perfect amount of time, because Jacob wanted Rachel, and this was him making the first move of negotiation, right? He probably thought in his head, you know, how long am I willing to work for this girl that I want? What would her dad be moved by if I said? And he went and said 7 years, a perfect amount of years, right? Verse 19.
Verse number 19. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me.
Right? Abide with me. Right? And this is going actually into what the sister said in the comments. The sister said the 7th year he would have to be released based off the Lord's release for servitude. So what did Laban say? Laban said, yeah. So this is letting you know, in Shemitic culture, right, one would make themselves a volunteer servant to get land, to get a wife, to get whatever. And in that 7th year, it was known in our culture a perfect amount of time has passed and we were to be let free. So here we see Jacob off rip saying, look, I'll become your servant and work for her for 7 years, knowing that it's in the law. So I'm glad she pointed that out, because Laban said, guess what? Hey, look, I'll take you as a servant, abide with me. I would have no other better servant. So Khan, to what she said. Go ahead, Brother Denal.
I was gonna say too, man, it's interesting in the scriptures. The number 7 can also be associated with things pertaining to the Most High, right? We see, just like the scripture that she just posted, said the Lord's release, right? The Lord's release. When you go into the Sabbath day, 6 days he created, and then the seventh he hollowed for himself, right? When you talked about the Nazarite vow, right? 7th day he shall cut his hair. But we understand the Nazarite vow, that whole vow is dedicated to who? The Lord. The hair that he's cutting off is dedicated to who? The Lord. When you talk about circumcision, yes, he gets circumcised on the 8th day, but the 7 days is technically symbolizing the covering of the Lord on him, right? And then so when you look at the number 7, it's often associated with things pertaining to the Most High. And it kind of makes sense. You can believe what you want. A lot of people say when you go to the book of Revelation, 666 is the number of a man, is because a lot of times the number 6 is associated with what the Most High God has given us. He's given us 6 days to do this, and then the 7th is his. He's given us 6 years to do this as men, and the 7th is here, right? And so that number 6 not only means incompletion, but it also can mean the things that he's allotted for men to do. So even when he talks about 666, he could be talking about he's given men an incomplete amount of time on the earth to try to get it right or whatever, right? Whatever you want to look at it, you know what I'm saying?
And look, I would go to say, because I believe 10 is completion, but I believe 7 is perfection. I would go to say that 6 is imperfection, 7 is perfection, because we know the Most High God is perfect, right? So a lot of times all these things happen because why? It's a perfect amount of time or a perfect label, right? So even when we go to the law again, to if somebody has leprosy, 7 days are they to be separated, right? The 3rd day they're cleansed. That's the holy, that's being hallowed and sanctified. And then on the 7th day, it's a perfect amount of time. And a lot of times on that 8th day, they can come back. Also, whenever we dedicated an altar, we would dedicate an altar like in the book of Nehemiah, Ezra, and Second Maccabees and stuff like that, Second Kings. A lot of times when you dedicate the altar, you would dedicate an altar 7 days. And on that 8th day, you would have a congregation, or you would have everybody come and give the burnt offerings on that altar. That 7 days for that altar was for the Lord, right? Con, did we already read 19?
Con, we did.
Con, let's go to verse 20. So
Verse number.
So good points though. Good points though. Good points.
Verse number 20, right? 20. And it reads, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her.
Right. So this is in the law, man. It's recorded in the law. And this is, before we got the law of Moses, before we was even a nation, right? We served 7 years and we were let free 7 years. But if you understand this story, he had to do another 7 years to get Rachel, because he ended up getting Leah, right? So that was another perfect amount of time. Let's go here. Proverbs 6 and 16.
And a lot of times, man, you got to think about it like this. Like the brother said, well, the sister made the point earlier that, the year of the Lord's release, everything that you see, even in the society we live in today, 7 is really kind of still representative of perfection, because I don't know if you went into it before I jumped on either, but just about how, like we talked about on a previous lesson, that even creditors in this day and age, right? After, say you have a debt that's owed and it's on your credit, right? After 7 years, that debt automatically falls off, right? So technically, some creditors go up to 10, right? But either way it goes, it's still representative of the number of perfection, right? Or the number of completion. That's 7 and 10, right? So that's just a lot of the spiritual connotation, even with the Bible and how we're going through the scriptures that the brother Azrael is laying out. You can see it even in today's time if you just kind of like, pay very close attention.
Con. So even to this day, man, that number, and this is what we need to know to understand and have discernment in life, right? Not to give into it, but to understand if God gave you a dream 3 times, and he might be saying this, I'm hollowing something in your life, right? Right, or emphasizing something in your life. For example, he gave a dream to Pharaoh, right? And Joseph said, hey, look, these 7 kine, right, are for 7 good years. And these 7 heifers or these 7 kine are for 7 bad years, right? A perfect amount of time. So you have to understand and interpret these things if you want to have good discernment of not only the Bible, but of spiritual things in your life as well. Proverbs 6 and 16.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 6 and verse 16. These 6 things does the Lord hate. Yeah, 7 are an abomination unto him.
Right. So these 6 things doth the Lord hate. These 6 things that the Lord hate, 6, like me and Denal kind of came to a reasoning on, meaning imperfect. These 6 things are imperfect and the Lord hates them, but 7 are an abomination. He hates he hates all 7 with a perfect hatred, right? 7 things, right? Salakia, where do I want to go from here? Now, let's go here real quick. I want to go to 1 Kings 18 and 43. 1 Kings 18 and 43. All right, let's read this.
This is 1 Kings 18 and 43, and said to his servant, go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked and said, there is nothing. And he said, go again 7 times.
Right. So this is when the Lord is telling Elijah to keep going up to look for a cloud. He told him to keep going, and Elijah kept going, and he did not see nothing until the 7th time, right? Letting you know he went up a perfect amount of time, right? Read verse 44.
And it came to pass at that 7th time that he said, behold, there arises the little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, go up, say unto Ahab, prepare thy chariot, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not.
Right. So he went up a perfect amount of times. So letting us know, man, there's a perfect amount of time. Sometimes we want things right now, Instagram, right? But a lot of times the Lord at least wants us to wait a perfect amount of time. Some of us can't even wait a week for something, right? We'll be in the midst of a situation and we won't even give it 7 days, right? Let alone 7 years, right? But, we got to understand a perfect amount of time is not always speedily, right? It's not always quick. Sometimes it takes some time because, he had to go up to the top of this little mountain to try to see a cloud 7 times. That's a workout, right? Let's get another time that we see this in the Old Testament, right? Joshua. Let's go to Joshua chapter 6 and 16.
That's a spirit. I was just thinking about Joshua. That's a spirit.
Khan,
the book of Joshua, the greatest war general in the history of Israel, right? The book of Joshua, chapter 6, and verse number 16. And it reads, and it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew with trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for the Lord hath given you the city.
Right, man. And so he gave them the order to shout, and the city fell. The walls of Jericho fell down, but they had to walk around 7 times, not 1 time, not 2 times, a perfect amount of time, right? A perfect amount of time. They had to vibrate the earth with their feet and walk around and shout. And then, whatever happened, however they can prove it scientifically, the cracks and the micro fractures and everything, I don't know. But 7 times, it was a perfect amount of time that they had to do it for it to work because God told them that. They had to listen to God, and God told them 7 times, a perfect amount of times, right? It's not just a random number, right? Let's go here real quick. Second Kings, and we almost done. Second Kings 5 and 10. Second Kings chapter 5 and verse 10. Right? We read about Elijah. Now let's read about Elisha, right? Or some people say Elisha, right? Second Kings 5 and 10.
My turn.
Con.
2 Kings 5 and 10. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean.
Right. So Elisha had healed, I believe, this lady or this man or somebody's son or
man.
Con. It was a man, right? And he healed them by telling them to go to the Jordan and wash in the Jordan 7 times, a perfect amount of times. He didn't say go wash 3 times, go wash 2 times, go wash 1 time. He washed 7 times. He like, man, I'm tired of washing, man. You might get tired of doing something 7 times, but it's a perfect amount of time. Sometimes you have to do something a perfect amount of times before you can get your blessing, man. Right? Go on a 7-day fast if you want something. Go, I don't know, 7. Try it out. I don't know, try waiting 7 days for an answer. Try it out. It's a perfect amount of time, right? And let me go here real quick. This is the last precept I got concerning the number 7. So Jeremiah 1 and 3. Or 1 and 3. I think. Jeremiah chapter. Let me see. I don't think this is what I want. Where Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, the priest that were in the line of the land of Benjamin, they did Jeconiah king until the end of the 11th year, in the 5th month. Nah, this ain't. I don't think this. Lord, Salakia, man. Let me see.
What is the verbiage you was looking for?
I can't even remember for real. Hold on.
Well, in the midst of the brother Azrael finding the precept he was looking for, the number 7 is very powerful, man. Even in the world of sports, right? 7 is one of the most coveted numbers that athletes like to wear. Well, particularly in football, not necessarily so much basketball, but even basketball, man. Carmelo Anthony, one of my favorite players of all time, number 7. His whole branding is stay mellow, right? Stay mellow, but the L in mellow is a 7. Michael Vick, one of the, I guess you could say, trendsetters, pioneers of the way black quarterbacks are viewed in sports in general, right? Because he kind of came in and took the dynamic to another level. There were more black dual threat quarterbacks before Michael Vick. There was Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon. You had your athletes, but when Michael Vick came in with the number 7, the braids, just the authentic, I guess you could say, authentic urban lifestyle that he was living, it kind of made that number marketable and popular. So it's kind of like the same thing with even in life, like the brother said, sometimes you fast for 7 days to find an answer, which reminded me of when in the book of Second Ezra, when Ezra had to fast for 7 days when he was communicating with the angel of the Lord, when he was talking to the Lord, trying to find the answer as to why Israel is in the position that we in and how do we get out of it. When he was seeing these visions, the angel showed him to fast for 7 days. Even when you go to the book of Daniel, like we read earlier, even Daniel and them ate post for 10 days, right? Didn't eat the king's meat a complete number of days, So again, there's spiritual connotations, even in real life, like I said, the number 7 is a very coveted number. Jamar Chase, he's a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, right? His last year at LSU, they won a national championship, but his the very following year, he was supposed to stay and play, but it was because of COVID that the season really. A lot of athletes said, I'll just train for the league, but he even changed his number to 7, and his reason was it's a perfect number. So there's a lot of things that you could when you look at the number 7, man. The number 7 represents uh, perfection, like the brother says. Matter of fact, in so much that every time I go to the gas pumps, I'm always trying to pull up the pump 7 or pump 12. You know what I'm saying? 7 or 12. I always say 7 for perfection or 12 for the tribes of Israel. Either one.
Come, man. Even I'll be at the gym, man. If I don't know what number to put something on for intensity or how many sets, I do 7. I do like the brother said, 3 or 12. Or I try to keep it aligned with the Bible, man. Give me a good workout.
Hey, before you go into letter Jeremiah, I wanted to say real quick too. No, this is not us getting caught up in gematria, bro. We just saying that when you look through the scriptures, the Lord definitely has numbers that he favors and for a reason. So just don't get lost in the sauce of angel numbers and stuff like that.
Con. And we gave that disclaimer at the beginning, man. Like the brother said, hey, we're not saying to, every time you go out, you see somebody license plate, or you screenshotting the time, because every time you look at the time to say 144 and you think you're part of the 144,000 now. And we're not saying to get into numerology and get angel numbers on your necklace and bracelets and all of that, man. We're not saying that. We just to understand and to discern the meanings of numbers. Now, this is the letter of Jeremiah. Y'all learning something with me. I didn't know that there was an apocryphal book called the letter of Jeremiah, but we're gonna look into. I might have to go and read this on my own, but we see it here in the King James version, the letter of Jeremiah. We're gonna read verses 1 through 3, right? So take this with a grain of salt, man. I'm not sure how credited this is, right? My guess is it's kind of credible if they have a King James version of it. It is an apocryphal book from the shallow research I did. But nonetheless, let's read this real quick. And verse 3 is the point, though. Who's up to read? This is the last thing we're going to read, too.
I think it's on me. I don't know. Jeremiah, letter of Jeremiah 1:1, a copy of an epistle which Jeremy sent unto them which were to be led captives into Babylon by the king of Babylonians to certify them as it was commanded him of God.
Right. So if you guys know, Jeremiah's mission as a prophet was to tell his people to go into captivity, and his people weren't hearing it. So they kept putting them in prison, trying to kill him and all of that. Because who wants to hear that God gonna put them in prison? They thought he was a false prophet, man. What, the mighty nation of Israel is going into prison? Nah, the Most High God wouldn't want that. He wants us to fight back. And Jeremiah was like, nah, you can't. The sins have caught up to us. We got to go. So this is that letter that he sent to them that got Jeremiah in that trouble. All right, let's read verse 2.
Verse number 2, because of the sins which ye have committed before God, ye shall be led away captives into Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Babylonians.
Right. Verse 3 is the point.
Verse number 3, so when ye be come unto Babylon, ye shall remain there many years and for a long season, namely 7 generations. And after that, I will bring you away peaceably from thence.
Right. So he was saying you're going to be under the nation of Babylon for 7 generations, right? And after those 7 generations, he was going to bring you away peaceably, right? Meaning our salvation comes, right? So 7 generations could be, a perfect amount of generations, or it could be an actual 7 generations. Nonetheless, it's a perfect amount of time in captivity before he brings us out peacefully, right? You can go over 7 so many times in the Bible, whether it be 7 days, 7 years, the tribulation. You get all 7 is all throughout the Bible, man. So we can go in this lesson for forever, but nonetheless, just giving y'all a little food for thought, something to think about. Right? Go ahead, brother Obadiah. You're on mute, King. You're muted, King.
Con, I was saying, the letter of Jeremiah is just Baruch chapter 6.
Oh, okay.
Con.
Okay. Con. Never heard of it as the letter of Jeremiah.
Yeah, con. Yeah, con.
I appreciate that quick study, my brother. And
No, it's in the chat.
You said what?
It was in the chat. You know, sis put in the chat.
Khan, the water, man, the water for that, Khan. But Khan, man, I see the brother said his phone on 7%. You got to charge that, King. But nonetheless, man, Shabbat Shalom. We're your brothers of the hopefully this was edifying, man. Hopefully it was something to kind of, give you something to listen to on the Sabbath day. Oh, the brother's saying my phone on 7%. Oh, that's funny. Talking. Oh, I gotta get you 7. A perfect amount of time before we get up off this thing. But nonetheless, right? Keep the commandments, man. Get your rest in. Until next time, I believe, Lord willing, tomorrow we'll come on with another lesson, man. And we say shalom. And like our big brother Christ said, if you're not gathering, you scattering. So gather together, O nation not desired.